The next topic will be again very interesting to all of us. See, today's buzzwords in the industry are efficiency, continuous improvement, innovation, and so on and so forth. To improve what is required, we need to know what we are doing right and what not so right today. It is extremely important to utilize the lessons learned from the past, from the experience. So our next topic is on VNV lessons learned under multiple standards by Mr. Pradeep Oak. Pradeep is a founder, director, and CEO of Oak Systems, a specialist software IVNV and testing company. Pradeep has over 26 years of experience in the software industry, starting his professional career with TCS as a software developer. He is among the first 20 certified quality auditors in India, which is really very appreciable, Pradeep. In addition to delivering lectures on various topics, he has also authored a book on software testing published by McGraw-Hill. Please welcome Pradeep.
Check. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Eddie. All right, yeah, let's try to understand various aspects involved with V&V activities. Quickly, let me introduce Oak Systems. Can you just see which? This is the one. Okay. Yeah. In fact, Oak Systems has been in existence for the last 18 years. We are one of the earliest software IV&V and testing companies in India. So, in fact, that's where I see, how we learned things, the lessons learned, where the industry was not aware, or even we were not aware what this software IV&V activities were. So, as we went along, we learned a lot of things, and in fact, I always keep saying that in a lifetime of a software engineer, probably we will see some 5 or 6 generations of various standards, right? And then to be relevant to that era of the industry, we need to be updating ourselves, we need to align ourselves with the new standards, new happening that's going on in the industry. So we are a small Bangalore-based company. We are a horizontal company, so we work across multiple domains, from avionics, defense, to automotive, industrial automation, energy, medical, as well as on the enterprise application and in banking. And in fact, that's where we see that lot of learnings, even across the embedded and non-embedded side, we see a lot of things are being common. So the portfolio, as you see here, primarily across different standards that we try to address, but mostly software verification, validation, testing, test automation, and related activities. In fact, we are also part of the overall the LDRA certification services, where we operate a LDRA competency center from the V&V activities. So we have heard of number of international standards, and I'm sure when I'm listing some of these, whether it is 2167A or 498 or 12207 or DO178, I'm sure at least one of these standards probably we might have used or we might be using, right? So 2167A, how many of you have used or using 2167A? Can you please raise your hands, just for my understanding? All right, okay. All right, yeah. Okay, and 12207, IEEE 12207. Okay, again I see a number of hands coming up. DO178, B and C, I don't differentiate, but so, okay, yeah, so, yeah, lot more hands coming up here, yes. All right, so how many of you have transitioned from the earlier standards, 2167A or 12207 to DO178? Yeah? All right, I see few hands going up. Yeah. In fact, see, that's where, see, as we look at things, see, or each one of these standards, whenever we have, tried to use them, have we tried to understand how these standards are formed? What is the basis for these standards being introduced or rather published and made use of in the industry? Is there a mathematical basis? Is there a calculus involved underneath it, or algebra, or any physics or chemistry? What is it? Yes, it is psychology, and then it is the lessons learned, right? So see, finally, the standards themselves have come out of the lessons that we have learned over a period of time through our different programs and projects, right? So some things are basic assumptions with which we start into the project, and they may get changed, and then as we go along, we realize that there is something unknown coming up, and we need to take some decisions then and there so that we can move on a path which would lead us towards achieving our goals, right? So the basic thing is the standards themselves have come out with, based on our experiences across the industry, different programs across the globe, and they are, they're all put together, right? So that's where we look at, in the early days when 2167A came up, this was a standard, mostly at the, the military standard for the system software development, and in fact, it also said documentation. So it was more towards how we document things so that there are no surprises as we move from collecting the requirements to their implementation, right? So mostly the focus was with respect to the waterfall model or an iterative waterfall model, and then we talked about SSS and then SRS, SDD, or so the various things, documents that came up. From the V&V perspective, the visibility into these activities were mostly at this document level. So we were more into looking at the preliminary versions or the drafts of these documents and the baseline documents, and then keep moving, right? So it's not very clear, but it's basically an iterative waterfall model, both for hardware and software. And see, the way the things were implemented, again, we have seen certain programs where these were implemented very successfully, meeting the objectives very well, and being very successful at the end. We have also seen certain programs where the implementation had always gaps. People always thought, okay, let me first finish my project, then come to your standard, right? So the documentation was always seen to be something which is not part of the project. It has to be done. Maybe somewhere at the end you have a entity called certification body. They won't touch your software or touch your system unless you produce a set of documents, and that's when you just start writing your SRS, or rather put it in a particular format as required by the standard, right? So it's more of a mindset. As Steve said, it's the psychology. That's where we say the psychology. See, first thing, as a V&V organization, what we look at it is, we need to break this psychology that exists in the development teams. The first thing then we look at from the V&V or IVNV point of view is this documentation, if at all, we still need to call it as documentation, is this being integrated as part of my internal work, internal or integrated work of each and every individual, each and every team. And that's a very key thing as we look along, okay? In fact, 2167A was superseded by 498, where they tried to move away or expand the scope to not to just the military applications, also the other applications. And in fact, subsequently, we also see that IEEE 12207 superseded 498. And even in 12207, it talked about the systems and the software. So 12207 addresses both standalone software as well as software in the system context. So both these things are being addressed in IEEE 12207. We are seeing a number of programs which have followed IEEE 12207. Even in the Indian context, many of the defense programs have been using 12207, IEEE 12207. Even some of the space programs are around IEEE 12207. And we are seeing a trend where both the standalone software as well as the system integrated or the software in the system context, both being addressed. And again, when we look at it, when we see 2167A, 498 or 12207, is the same thing, right? So finally, you have defined certain set of activities, and you have certain objectives and goals to be carried out, and these standards should help us achieve those objectives in a better manner. Less surprises as we go along. All right, and as the new versions of each one of these have, in fact, the latest 12207 is released just a couple of quarters ago, 2015 version. In fact, what we see is most of these standards, they have got 2015 version that has come in, and we see a lot of convergence across various standards. Okay. Yeah. So this is the again, you will see here the software specific process and the software in a system context process. You will see a lot of activities, lot of handshaking between the system and the software, right? So whenever we carry out V&V activities, even if we are carrying out V&V at the software level, we always need to keep the system context in mind. If at all we, the software is going to be part of the system, right? So we, earlier sessions spoke about the traceability part of it, and the verifiability. All of these things have to be kept in mind. Now we also look at DO 178 standards, right, or the guidelines, which are more focused for the airborne systems, right? So again, when you look at it, so here the safety critical parts have come in. So you have different levels. So there are different rigor with which we need to carry out our activities depending upon the criticality level of that particular system, right? So in fact, when we, what's the difference when we are carrying out projects under 2167A or under DO 178? Under 2167A, in absence of specified or defined levels, if it is an airborne system which is being developed under 2167A, the tendency would be that every subsystem that comes within that program, you do it to the highest level. Whereas in DO 178, probably it allows us to identify the criticality of every subsystem and then do it at the subsystem level. You can carry out activities with the mandatory things as specified for that level. And of course, when you put all the things together, you need to anyway carry out your activities at the highest level at which the system is defined or is evaluated, right? So that's one of the things that we look at it. And in DO, we talk of verification as the basis. In fact, lot of activities, lot of focus, objectives are around the verification. So and when we talk of this, so generally you ask anybody, what is DO 178? What is the major thing? What is the difference between level A and level B or C or D? They only talk about, okay, there is MCDC there, then there is decision coverage, there is statement coverage, and so on. but what about at the design level? What about at the development level? The activities, the rigor with which we carry out things are, they are different. If you don't have these levels considered at the development level, what is that we and we can do? At the most, you will find out that there are discrepancies, there are certain inadequacies, and then, it goes into a thing, right? So that means, no matter, how much, aggressively we and we activities are carried out, finally, the correction part of it or prevention part of it has to be with the right analysis of requirements, right design, architectural design, and the detailed design that comes into this, right? So, and that's where, when we look at the V and V and then, the entire life cycle that we start talking about, at every stage, there is certain V and V activity that needs to be carried out so that the problems that get into the system are localized to that phase, and we are able to, fix them at that stage itself so that they don't get carried forward to the next phases, right? And in fact, in DO, we also see when we talk of verification, it includes reviews, analysis, and testing, all of them together we talk of. And in fact, when we look at any of these standards, in fact, whatever is the standard, the basic things that we need to do is, see, we have a set of requirements to implement. We need, so we need to understand that problem, why we are trying to implement this, and then we need to find a solution. So we need to design a solution, and based on the solution, we start the design, we start implementing, and then, we need to establish that we have achieved what has been, our objective or what has been our goal. So primarily, when we look at the things, and we also have CMMI, process models, we also have ISO 9001 standard, right? So the Plan, Do, Check, Act. So these are the process models, right? So we talk of various standards which are specific to a particular industry or domain. We talk of process life cycle models. So it is possible that, we can put all of them together. And in fact, there is also an 1012 IEEE standard for V and V. Again, so this talks about the various levels of different types of V and V activities one can perform, no matter what the standard is. So when we look at all these standards, when we start using all these standards, one thing is very clear. Like we have seen LCA program. Many of you, I see many of you who are actively part of the LCA program, which used 2167A standard. Okay. Now, when we start looking at DO 178C, which is released just a couple of years back, we still see that all those things which are defined in DO 178C have already been implemented and done in LCA program, and probably much more which is not come into this, probably it will come in D. Now, how is this possible? So that is where, the experience, the domain experience, the requirement, clarity in requirements, with which, like the object code verification, it has been done 100%, you in spite of not having the right tools, OCV has been done on the LCA program, in the LCA program, though 2167A in itself may not talk very specifically about it. So what it means is, see, such kind of learnings that have gone through in the experiences that have gone through in the programs have been used to refine the standards, to come out with new standards. So my suggestion or my thought in this, or the way we use it, if we need to carry out V and V, let us not first worry about what standard we are trying to look at. Let us try to understand the requirements. Let us try to understand the program objectives, okay? And then aligning those objectives, and then aligning our V and V activities to meet certain specific standards is, is like whether you want to call it as a software test plan or a software verification plan. So that's where probably your standard may have to, you can use those things, right? And these models like DO178 and all, they don't restrict you because that's a guideline. You can define your template. So we have used IEEE 12207 project related templates to DO178 related project as their templates, slight changes, right? So likewise, focus on the defect prevention activities. You look at it from that point of view, look at the goals and objectives of the thing, interpret the standard or guidelines to your specific requirements. I think that is the key thing, and with this, we can survive through any number of standards and any new standard that comes through as well. So in a nutshell, there is an old saying, ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. So, different standards talk about the same truth. So let us understand that truth and then follow the same thing. All right, so that's what I had to share with you. So if you have any questions, the chair permits.
Any questions? Yeah.
Different lessons learned, which has led to different standards. That was our topic actually. In this, for me, if I want to refer what are the lessons learned which refer to different clauses or tasks in various standards, is there any reference available anywhere?
Okay. Yeah. The standards themselves are developed based on lessons learned, right? So, and otherwise, I think there are a number of papers which are available.
One difficulty is what we are facing. Some lines, if I read or my friends read, they all will interpret in different way, like that, because standard English also is quite tough to understand on what way, on what thought people have developed and written that sentence. So if such examples, what is really led to that sort of things, it would have been really helpful for us.
I'm not aware of any one collection of lessons learned as such, but there are a number of papers available, and maybe through such conferences, maybe, we will learn a lot, right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more? Okay. Last question.
That's the last one.
In covering all the standards, you have not covered common criteria. Can you just throw some light on how common criteria is different from the others?
Now, can you elaborate on that common criteria?
Common criteria is a methodology for software testing.
Okay, yeah. See, I think methodology for software testing or software verification is, fairly standard. Again, there is also a lot of flexibility. Again, that can vary whether you have to carry out unit testing, integration testing, system testing at software level or HSI, whatever, or whether you want to do only at the component level and at the system level. Again, that's a call you need to take based on your experience. Okay. What is important is whatever activities or whatever phases that you define, are you meeting the objectives? That is the key thing that you need to look at. Okay.
Thank you, Pradeep, for
Thank
sharing
you.
your
Thank
best
you.
practices.
Yes.